Welcome back to the morning show. Now, it's interesting that last year, towards the end of 2018, President Cyril Ramaphosa revealed that the summit on gender-based violence was inspired by the total shutdown movement. At the summit, you'll remember women shared their most gruesome of stories about their abuse, and the president condemned the abusers, even taking a vow to take strong action against them. This past weekend, the president reinforced this at the launch of the ANCManifesto. But is the ruling party just playing lip service? That's the question that we're trying to explore this morning. And I'm joined by Loyiso Saliso from the Total Shutdown Movement. But before we get into this conversation, let's take a look at this.
The ANC is committed to a more equal, more just, and more humane society where all citizens can live freely and prosper. Amongst other things, this means that we must prioritize the rights of women and end discrimination and prevent violence against women and girls. We have made huge strides. We've made huge strides in improving the position of women in society.
All right, so that's, of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking at the Moses Mabhida Stadium while launching the party's manifesto. Loyiso, thank you so much for coming through to studio.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
I mean, we were talking just off air about how, you know, we need institutions, political parties, organizations to take seriously the issue of gender-based violence. And taking it seriously also comes across in how you interact with people that are alleged to have violated women and children. And in this case, you know, my colleague Tumelo Nontobeko was speaking about the issue of Arthur Mafokati being allowed in the VIP area at the ANC, even though there's a case against him, a very serious case of gender-based violence against him. How irresponsible is that for a political party that is the leader of society, essentially?
I find it very hypocritical of the president as well. I mean, like, he's been preaching them, the ANC and himself as the president fighting GBV. But it's not only Arthur who was there. There are many other people within, you know, the governing party and even government that are known abusers, both within, internally, and known by the media and other and society at large. It's really disappointing because even with the manifesto, it shows that it's just the same lip service. They've been saying the same thing every year, all the time, and it's just electioneering. And I think last time I was here, I was talking about how annoying it is for us to be used, for our bodies to be used as election campaigns. And if you're not going to take a stand and get into a space where you're going to say as a president that you cannot be within my ranks if you are an abuser, which is one of our demands, our demand number one, which he hasn't met as well, with a couple of other demands that haven't been made by the president. But if you could also start by implementing that demand, we could maybe start seeing a change of these kind of things where you invite people who are abusers in events and even in other spaces of society. And
it's a drastic demand, but necessary, because you know, the issue of gender-based violence has reached crisis proportions in this country.
It's a national crisis.
It's a national crisis, so it's important that there are drastic steps that are taken against these alleged abusers. But one of the excuses that they always make is that, well, there are internal processes that are being followed. So therefore, let's still allow Pule Mabe to come on stage and be part of the NEC, which he was at the ANC Manifesto launch. And then they'll say, there's nothing we can do until those internal processes have been concluded. But is that a reasonable excuse, or do you think there must be a total disassociation with this person because of how serious this issue of gender-based violence is?
Listen, it also comes to show what society is like when it comes to abusers. We've been saying that the system is pro the perpetrator than it is the victim, and they are always making excuses for them. You look at the Dross rape case, whereby this guy is excused for mental illness. So even the internal processes are problematic as well. Look at Mduduzi Manana, for example. He did that twice, and eventually, until everybody was like really outraged, they then took a step to say, okay, you need to go. But why can't we stop making excuses for abusers and treating them with these, you know, baby hands and put our foot down? Because that's what we're calling for as a movement, is that you need to be firm. you know,
Yes, and be
you need to be
decisive.
firm and decisive, and you need to be clear that we will not tolerate you in our society, because we don't need people like you who are going to, you know, toxify our spaces in our society, in our homes, and so forth. So it's really, they need to put their foot down.
Yeah.
They really do.
And speaking of being decisive also, I mean, most of these people will take their own decision to temporarily resign. In the cases of Mduduzi Manana, he resigned because there was pressure on him to do so, but there was no decisive action from their president, from their ANC to say, we need you to go. In fact, they wait for him to take that decision.
Exactly.
How important is it for leaders to be decisive and be the ones that take a decision to say, Pulemabe, step down, as opposed to allow Pulemabe to be the one, after thinking about it and facing public pressure to say, okay, I'm going to decide that I'm going to resign, to allow this internal process to unfold?
Listen, that's why we actually had to go and hand over the memorandum of the 24 demands to the president, to the justice, to the courts, as well as into parliament, because they have the power to make these changes. You talk about these internal processes. What are they?
Yeah.
What is the process, really? What do you sit there and you engage? Do you really look at the person's history? Because, for example, again, Manana, he had, I think, a case prior to the Cubana case.
Yeah.
Did they not know that? Why must he then be again given another warning? There should not be any warning for such people. If you are abusive, you must be dismissed immediately. And that's what needs to happen. And we really are calling for our leaders to be firm. Be firm. Look at the laws. You know, the justice system is not pro-survivor. They re-victimize us when we take the stand. Even in spaces of political spaces, women will be abused. Look at what the guy, one of the leaders of the ANC said at Mpumalanga about how women are used to fight battles.
Political battles.
Yeah, and I'm like, but why can't you focus on this man being an issue?
Yeah.
You know, rather than dragging the woman. So we still have that problem right now. And I'm wondering, Mr. President, like, really, when are you going to implement the demands? When are you going to take this as a national crisis? Because you've been preaching it, but you're not acting like it is.
I don't know if this was part of the demands as well by the total shutdown movement, or whether it's something you're advocating for, but this importance of vetting leaders and vetting employees. Earlier we were talking about how teachers right now, in fact we'll be talking about that in the second last half hour of the show, about how teachers now have to produce a police certificate clearance before they can be hired as teachers, to show that they have no sexual violence history, they've never been prosecuted for any gender-based violence. But how important is that also in political circles? So before you will say a particular person must be a spokesperson of the party or be a minister, how important is it that there must also be that vetting process to sort of cover the tracks and make sure that these people don't come in here when they've got this particular history?
That is part of our demand number one, as I've mentioned before, that he needs to start putting his foot down within his own ranks by saying that we will not be employing or having any abusers or former abusers within, you know, as government public servants or working in government, because you need to start leading by example. So you need to start cleaning up your own ranks before you can go to teachers and go to policemen and so forth. But it should not only be applying to teachers. It's a very good, it's about time actually this happens.
Yeah.
But it needs to, you know, apply to everybody in all sectors.
I just want to give you the last word then. You've spoken about the demands that most of which have not been implemented, if not all, actually. Is there a deadline to the president? Are you going to have further discussions with him this year following the summit last year?
We have a team that actually meets with the presidency, I think once a month or once every 2 months to discuss the progress. We haven't met with them this year yet. We will be meeting with them this week. However, the Gender Summit was one of our demands, which was met. And I think there's another, the demand 23 about a 365-day campaign, which we were running during the 16 days of activism. GCIS is actually working on a campaign that's going to run throughout the year. So we do have, you know, a few shifts in the right direction, but a lot of demands have not been met. And we are not going to take this one lying down. I mean, Mr. President did say that, remain radical, and it doesn't make him immune to that if he doesn't really come to the table.
No, look, we thank you so much for being radical and trying to push government to actually do the right thing when it comes to this particular issue. Thank you so much for your time. Loyiso Saliso is with the Total Shutdown Movement. Let's hear your thoughts on this matter of the responsibility of our leaders when addressing and dealing with issues of gender-based violence. You can tweet us at Morning Show SA. We're also on Facebook at Morning Show SA. Also send us your WhatsApp voice notes, your comments on this subject on 0724 116528. Right, the Morning Show will continue.